Welcome to StaffBuffalo's Pain Points podcast, where we unravel the complexities of staffing, human resources, and other challenges faced by businesses today. Hi, welcome to this week's episode of the Pain Points podcast. I'm here with Mike Belin with Nacre Consulting, and Mike has an extensive sales background and works with Nacre Consulting to help companies improve their sales processes. Mike, thanks so much for being here. We're so happy to have you. Knowing Jason Pearl and Nacre Consulting, I know you guys do amazing work with the companies that you work with and helping to really take them to the next level. So I'd love for you to start by sharing your story and your background and what led you to your career with Nacre.
Yeah, thank you. I really appreciate it. Glad we're able to do this. And as the point of the podcast, Pain Points, I thought it was a good opportunity to really get together and talk about what I see, my perspective from the pain points that businesses have with their sales and sales operations and growing revenue. So I thought it was a good opportunity for us to come together. So thank you. Appreciate the invitation.
Absolutely.
My background is 15 plus years in sales, digital, multimedia marketing. So I found that in the time working with salespeople and coming up through sales, starting off in inside and outside sales, and then moving into sales management, sales training, is that I was really passionate about being able to help other teams succeed. And so when I was reconnected with Jason several years ago to be able to work with him and saw what he was doing with Nacre and said, hey, I really feel this is a good opportunity for us to work together and take this to companies that really need this.
Awesome. And tell me, what does Nacre do?
So we are a sales and growth strategy consulting firm. We have a multitude of services that we offer, but that could be anything from sales playbooks, helping companies with sales operations, customer service, and customer journey mapping design. We help companies with their variable compensation plans, sales and marketing alignment, but really helping the sales operations side to grow and build out the sales and revenue that they need.
Awesome. Tell me, because when we spoke before the podcast a couple weeks ago, you gave me some insight about what Nacre means. And I'd love for you to share that with the audience because I think it has a really unique story behind it.
Yeah, Nacre was founded in 2017 by Jason Pearl. Jason and I had met several months before that, and shortly thereafter, he founded Nacre Consulting. And while I watched along with the journey that he had, I watched for a couple of years and seeing what he did and took a deep dive into Nacre. And when he and I reconnected and got talking, I uncovered that Nacre is the crystalline substance that gives a pearl its strength. It's formed at the mother of pearl. So it was a way for Jason to give a tribute to Pearl with kind of a creative take on that.
I think a lot of that translates also to the sales operations at an organization. Like building from like the inside out, helping companies really shine and grow, and the true beauty and uniqueness of each individual organization too. So I really see similarities there, and I love that connection not only to Jason's last name and lineage, but also to the work that you do working with companies and their sales organizations from the inside out, discovering the pain points that these companies have and helping them to make them better, stronger organizations and growing as well.
Yeah, that's a great point. You mentioned the uniqueness, and you talk about the uniqueness of a pearl. Is everything that we do is custom. We are not a one-size-fits-all, out-of-the-box consulting agency. That we make it a point to customize the services that we offer, the way that we help companies based on what their unique pain points are and what the unique challenges that they face. So as I mentioned, it is not a one-size-fits-all in any way, that we very much have to customize what we do.
Yeah, I think you bring up a good point with pain points of each company. Each company has their own unique pain points. But at the same time, there's a lot of themes around the pain points that they might be facing and how we can really solve those pain points, but tailor it to the individual organization. That's a lot of what we do at StaffBuffalo too when it comes to their recruiting, their hiring processes, their talent optimization, their HR needs. Yes, there's overall themes that go hand in hand with all those things, but how do we find a uniqueness to making it geared towards that specific company to help them take it to the next level? What are some of the biggest pain points that you see with the companies that you work with when it comes to their sales processes?
So the last part of what you said is often one of the big things, that there isn't a typical sales process, something that's standardized, and it often causes challenges where you have different salespeople in the organization kind of operating, the right hand operating independently of the left. Without those standardized sales processes, that it causes a lot of friction and a lot of confusion in sales. The other one is a sales and marketing alignment. And I often use the metaphor of the boat with the oars rowing in the same direction.
I'm a rower. I was a high school and college rower, so I love this analogy, and I feel like it gets used so much in business, and I can really relate to that.
Yeah, and that's something that I've actually posted things on LinkedIn where I've shown a boat with a crew on there, because it makes for a great metaphor that for sales and marketing to work together, that team has to be in unison. They have to be rowing in unison, and oftentimes it causes a lot of confusion, a lot of friction, where there's silos happening, where there isn't that communication that every organization needs. The last two things that I'll say that are common themes are CEO-led sales. That when the CEO is often the founder of the company, the inspiration behind the product or service that they offer, that there's a challenge and a struggle with handing those sales operations in the future of the organization to the next generation of leaders. And finally, compensation plans. That variable compensation is something that we see that you have to train your people well, coach them well, hire well, of course, and then pay them well. Because if those four things don't align and you're not compensating the right type of activities and the right type of behaviors and the right type of goals, then they'll leave and someone else will pay them well.
Absolutely. You see that a lot with salespeople. They say a lot of times salespeople are just driven by the finance behind it and how much money they can make. And they can always go somewhere else. So you really got to treat them well and make sure they're compensated well, and that they are truly behind the product they're selling to.
Absolutely.
That makes a huge difference. So let's step back. Let's talk about the sales and marketing dynamic and the challenges that arise from that. I know you alluded to it a little bit, but let's dive deeper into that. What causes that initial friction sometimes between a salesperson and the marketing person?
Number one, lack of communication. And too many times in organizations that you have someone that is the VP of sales and marketing. And I respectfully disagree, even though I've served in a fractional role at times in that those are 2 or 3 different jobs. So making sure that sales and marketing are given their own individual attention, and also making sure that they communicate well. Those 2 teams, I believe, are vital to the success of the organization. Those 2 teams have to be working well. So it comes down to 1, communication. 2, resources, making sure that those 2 teams equally have the resources that they need. 3rd, communication. They have to be talking with each other. They have to have a customer-centric approach. Everything that they do needs to be focused on who the customers are, who your ICPs, your ideal customer profiles are, and driving the message and the communication from inside your organization to your customer.
And I think that is a really big challenge sometimes between salespeople and marketing, is trying to uncover how to communicate externally to the customer. How do we take what I'm hearing in the field as a salesperson and can translate that to the marketing team so they can help create marketing pieces, right, that will talk to more potential customers and get them to realize that they have a pain point, and you have a product that can solve that pain point. And it's a constant process that's constantly evolving depending on how needs are changing from your customers and growing customer base as well.
That's absolutely true. And part of that is, evolution in the market, and, economies change and political administrations change. All these things change, but as long as the customer is at the focus of that communication, and it is a 2-way form of communication, that there are oftentimes, we've heard in the book, the men are from Mars, women are from Venus. That's often the case with the marketing and sales teams, that they're not speaking each other's love languages, and it's saying, hey, we're delivering what we think are very, very quality leads, and you're telling us that they're not. And sales are saying, hey, we're missing the mark, and those aren't the leads. We're not really truly driving at how our product or service or solution solves the problem that our ideal customers are looking looking for.
And how do we make sure our voice is the voice we want to be projecting internally and externally to your internal customers and your external customers? And that can make sure you're saying the right things, you're striking a chord with people, you're building those relationships, establishing rapport. I think a lot of that comes from sales, right? You have to first establish relationships and rapport and trust with customers and potential customers, but then make sure you are striking that chord with them.
Absolutely. And another point of that is, how is that information gathered? How is it sourced? How is it communicated internally? And the key thing in that, and I've seen so many times that organizations struggle where sales and marketing, hey, maybe they're on the same page, but leadership doesn't have that visibility that they need. And that's where a CRM comes into play, that everyone has to be feeding that and communicating up and down from initial touch points, from customer acquisition, all the way up through deal closing. So a CRM is something that is a must. You have to be able to have that visibility.
Tell us more about the CRM and what it means to an organization, because in case some of our listeners aren't familiar with sales or sales technologies, what's the CRM and why is it important to the organization?
So having that customer resource management tool, a CRM, and there are a ton of them out there. I've worked in a number of them, most notably Salesforce, HubSpot. There has to be that platform to be able to manage the customer relationship, manage the sales process, managing the marketing output, and how those things are transparently communicated internally, externally. And for example, a tool like HubSpot works very well so that a marketing team can communicate effectively to the customer and then pass that information along internally to sales. And sales, very much like a relay race, sales picks up the baton, except in this case, the metaphor of the relay race is that information is often handed back and forth along the way. And it isn't a hot potato, it's a relay.
It's a relay, and we're all constantly working towards the same goal. So keep handing that baton back and forth to continue to evolve and grow as an organization as well.
Yep.
Awesome. So a couple of things like you mentioned earlier too, and I think we're kind of getting to it. We're talking about maybe improving the sales operation overall. And you mentioned earlier one of the pain points is when the CEO or owner of the company was leading the sales function. And that's their baby. Maybe sometimes their passion just sells. There's no rhyme or reason. There's no scientific backing behind it. It's just kind of their passion for their organization, and what they do is selling products. And it's gotten them so far. But now it's time to take it to the next level. And you want to optimize your sales function to get more customers and ultimately grow your revenue. How does the CEO know when it's time to hand off the sales function?
It's funny because oftentimes someone other than the CEO recognizes when it's time. So when a CEO comes to us and has self-identified that, hey, it's time for me to do this, there's a couple of challenges that come into play. One is how and when. How do we do that? When do we go about this? So your question is about when does that happen? And it is a challenge that we have seen often over the years, the CEO-led sales. And so that sounds like the founder of the company was the inspiration behind it. Here's who we are, here's what we do, here is the product or service that we've built. They take it to market, and they're often the ones, understandably so, are the best salespeople of their product or service. Yep. They built it, like you said, it's their baby. No one understands it better than they do. The problem is when no one understands it better than they do. Right. And how you hand that off, and how you hand off that legacy leadership to say, okay, now I've built this, but now as the CEO, I need to step above this, remove myself from the day-to-day sales operations, and hand it off and coach and train a team and leaders, the next generation of leaders that can lead that sales team. So back to the question is when? It depends on where they are within their organization. Sometimes it's once they hit that first $1 million mark. Sometimes it's to go from 9.999 million to 10. Every business is different. Every business is unique, but the common themes in there are it's time. It is time to hand this off so that the CEO can rise above the day-to-day operations and have those things continue forward.
Are there certain pain points that CEOs have expressed to you of when they know it's time?
It comes down to a couple things. Sometimes it is a age and stage of life. It is, I've built this as far as I can do it on my own, but it is now time for me to hand the company over to the next generation, and I just physically, mentally can't do it anymore. Sometimes it's a CEO recognizing that, yes, I founded this, I understand it, but now our company is evolving and we're sending other products to market, other solutions to market, and I can't be the one to sell this all the time. So it could be a couple different things, but those are two that we see often.
Awesome. What are some of the things that you do to work with the CEOs to help prepare for that next step?
So starting at the beginning of the sales process and understanding how they sell, what the inspiration of the product or the service is, who their ideal customers are, what are the pain points that those customers have, and how to extract that information and build in an SOP, build in a set of processes to say, this is what ideal looks like, and hand that off to the next generation, the bullpen of future salespeople.
And I'm sure I know I asked that question, it's a general statement, and as you said, everything you do with the clients you work with is very customized and very unique to each business, and every business is totally different. I don't think there's ever two similar businesses out there. So it definitely is great to have an organization like Nacre and a consultant like yourself, Mike, that can really help take you down the path of getting to the next level and coaching, and not only just coaching the CEO, but the rest of the team as well, and getting them on board. And that leads to like a variety of different sales processes, I'm sure, and implementing them and training and development. So StaffBuffalo is working Nacre Consulting, and we are like, okay, Lauren, I can't do the sales anymore for all three sides of our business. Recruiting, talent optimization, HR consulting. But we're trying to get to the next level. How do we take maybe some of our key leaders on our team who are doing some sales, but they're not a trained sales professional. They've never had a formal training. They've maybe just kind of never figuring it out and figuring out from like my sales leadership, but I've never been a sales trainer either. So how do we navigate a situation like that?
Well,
is it a loaded question?
That is a tricky question. So when we first engage with our clients, one of the things that we right off the bat do is we kind of take them through a growth assessment. It's a series of, I think, about 50 or 60 different data points to be able to understand, okay, let's get the different perspectives of different stakeholders in the organization, because everyone has a different perspective of sales. Sometimes it's sales, as we talked earlier about marketing. Sometimes it's operations. Sometimes it's the customer experience side of things, to say, what does it look like through your lens? And to be able to understand, again, back to the putting the customer at the focus of this, and to say, how do we best go to market with our understanding of the people? Sometimes that is a talent assessment. Hey, we have the right product, we have the right. Services that we offer. Maybe it's just a talent standpoint. Maybe it's something that we need to bring in someone that is more specialized in this product, in this service. But to be able to, again, as I said, extract that information from the different perspectives in the organization, and then say, okay, here's what everyone has contributed to what that customer conversation sounds like, to what that process sounds like. Here's how it looks best now.
Awesome. Yeah, I think it's definitely, you always have to be analyzing what you're doing too. And looking at, okay, what we've done worked till now it's not working. What do we do to get to the next level? How do we change things? How do we speak to our customers differently so that they understand what we're trying to sell them? And if they have a need, they have a pain point. I think every organization is trying to identify what their customers' pain points are and help them help to provide them with a solution and knowing why. I come from a sales background. I worked in pharmaceutical sales for 10 years, and I've had a lot of great sales training from my experiences with the two companies that I worked for. And now taking a lot of what I've learned then and applying it to recruiting and talent optimization and HR consulting, and really working with companies locally to try to identify their pain points around those things and helping to let them know, like, we can help you and we want to partner with you. And sometimes it's not just a salesperson doing that, it's other people within the organization. And I love to try and help people understand that you don't have to be a true salesperson, but you are doing sales. Well, no matter how you're representing your company in the community or in your industry space. I think sometimes people just think sales is sales, and it can be really scary because you're like, I don't know how to do sales. But if you're out there talking to people, having conversations and understanding maybe what their needs are and what they do, I think there's opportunities to like learn how to sell through that standpoint. Am I correct with that, or am I off?
No, and something that I've talked about before, and I think that it's a misnomer that, well, that person is an effective communicator, they know how to talk, they're a natural-born salesperson. Yeah. And there is no such thing as a natural-born salesperson. That sales, just like anything else, is a trained, learned, improved upon skill. And so it isn't just, we've heard the sales expression before, the show up and throw up salespeople.
I can't stand those salespeople.
We could spend an hour talking about how awful those type of salespeople are, and it's really a learned skill in how to navigate the customer experience and how to navigate the buying journey, how to ask questions, how to lead someone through once marketing has identified that they are a qualified lead and a qualified person, but taking them through a discovery process and understanding, here's what I know about the industry as a professional in this industry. Here's what you know from your experience, what your pain points are, and gathering up the key stakeholders. And it is not for the faint of heart. It is not, a learned skill of sales is not an easy thing to do. And it has to be very well trained and coached and improved upon every step of the way.
And I think that a lot of that has to do with, it's not about you as a salesperson, it's about your customer. So if you go into see one of your customers and they're having a bad day, don't expect to give them your sales pitch. Like, understand, like, okay, I can tell you're stressed today. You may have just had a fired employee. You may have had something terrible go wrong in your plant. I'm going to come back. Let me know if you need anything. How can I help? We're kind of being that helpful resource and that partner, and knowing that they don't care about you today. They don't care about what you're selling. They just need to figure out how to move forward into the next part of their day after whatever they just went through. And being respectful to that can really get a salesperson much further than going in and being like, yes, that happened. Let me tell you about my products. Like, that's never a good approach at all. So I think a good salesperson has the good EQ to read their customers and adjust what they were planning to do accordingly. And adjust to different personality types as well, because that takes a skill in itself. So
we all remember learning at some point in our lives, like the golden rule, treat people like they want to be treated. And that has evolved, and especially in sales, talk about the platinum rule, is treat people the way that they want to be treated. Communicate in their style. Now, that doesn't mean that you're a chameleon. That doesn't mean that you change how you go about your day-to-day operations. It means, as you mentioned about that emotional intelligence, to understand, okay, this is someone that needs me to speed things up a little bit. This is somebody that needs me to slow things down. I need to go back. I need to ask more questions. I need to ask less questions. I need to get straight to the point. Hey, this person, I just found out that they had to fire somebody, just found out that their dog died, this morning, and they're not ready to consume the information that I have, and how to, as I try to teach my children, the read the room emotional intelligence, the ability to get in front of a group of people. And a sale is not a pitch or a presentation. It's an art and a skill and a series of conversations and questions and answers and adaptability. It isn't a one-size-fits-all.
No, and with sales, it doesn't have to happen right then and there in that one-time interaction. It's definitely a series where you work to learn and understand the person you're interacting with, their business, what their needs might be. And I think having a long view of an opportunity and knowing that it can take a week, a month, several months, or even several years for that customer to maybe finally be ready to buy something from you, whether it's a good or a service. That just shows you've put the time in to build that relationship, build that rapport, and really understand their needs and let them know who you are and what you do. And that way, when the time is right, they know to come to you when they have that need to be fulfilled and provide and have that sale.
Yeah, that's a great point. So one of those key things, and we talked before about how a CRM can help to capture metrics, and one of the things that is a key North Star metric is your sales cycle. What is the typical buyer's journey? How long does it take? What is the typical sales velocity? Velocity is how quickly that moves through your sales process. And if you know, based on your product or your service or your industry, that it is a 6-month sales cycle, then there are different milestones and different steps along the way that have to be achieved. It isn't a just walk-in transactional deal. Now, there are other companies that their sales process is very transactional, that it is something where, hey, we're expect to have that one meeting or one call close. And there are other things, especially with manufacturing clients that we work with, that there is a long process that has to be followed. And the key is understanding what your organization's metrics are, what your key performance indicators, those KPIs, what they are, and how to measure how you're operating throughout your sales process every step of the way.
And what are some of the key ways to keep your sales team motivated? Like you said, not everything's a one-time transaction. Sometimes it takes several interactions. How do you keep a team motivated?
So, organizations struggle with that. And what you often see is one of the leading factors in attrition could be compensation. So keeping them motivated through making sure that they are compensated the way that they are intended to. We're driving toward the behaviors that we want to see, driving toward the metrics, driving toward the goals of the organization. Coaching, ongoing coaching, helping your salespeople to succeed, helping the team win. Another key factor in that is company culture. And company culture isn't a happy hour on Fridays and a ping pong table. Sometimes it is.
Sometimes it is, but it seems like a lot of companies they don't care about the ping pong table anymore, a lot of employees.
Especially, and COVID kind of changed the game of that. A lot of companies are work from home, that there isn't an office, or those are not responsible to come into an office. But keeping teams motivated, one of the key things that I see is making sure that they are well-trained, well-coached, well-hired, as I said earlier, well-compensated, because if you're not willing to do that in the organization, another company will come along and do that for them.
When it comes to compensation, a lot of sales professionals are compensated on commission only. Some are salary plus bonus. I remember when I was in pharmaceutical sales, we were salary plus bonus. And several times over the course of my career, the company would change our bonus structure and how we were paid out. They didn't change the fact that we were going to get bonuses or not. They just, whether it was based on this data or based on that data. And it would throw some of my colleagues into a tizzy. They would spend so much time really trying to analyze or figure out why they changed it or what is going on. They spend more time on the phone with other colleagues complaining about the things in like change in sales structure and bonus structure that they were like, oh my gosh, I'm like, if you just do your job every day and you stay consistent, you're still going to get bonused. You don't have to spend all this time trying to like navigate and figure it out. And that was my perspective. You might have a different perspective based on what you do in sales consulting, but help me understand maybe like what the pain points around that might be to a sales professional.
So, especially as we head into this time of the year, and you're going to see that as we head into the fourth quarter and as we head into 2025, that this is a conversation, and thank you for bringing that up, that it comes up a lot, that our clients will start to ask for some advisement and to some specific help on building out their compensation plans for the upcoming year. Number one, what can we do to help incentivize salespeople as we approach the end of the year? Number two, what can we do going into next year to make sure that we are incentivizing and driving the right behavior, compensating people for the products, the services? Are there emerging products? Are there bonuses based on new customer acquisition? Are there retention bonuses? And organizations that regularly revisit their compensation plan will take into consideration what market trends are. Sometimes, based on the industry that you're in, it means that, hey, that will be a shift from selling this product or service to selling this product or service, and companies will have to incentivize that. So I've been there. I've been there on both sides, even way back in the day as a sales rep, that a compensation plan would happen. Somebody would get frustrated by it. Oh, they're not going to pay us anymore. No, the pool is still there. There's just a different way to go about that. And that's something that we help our clients do, is to say, let's break down your variable compensation, your commission structure, your bonus structure, and say, here are the things that we need to do to make sure that your people, again, are well compensated, but they're paid for the things that will drive the success of the organization long term.
I think that's super important, is, again, keeping it long term. How can organizations work with their sales team so that they understand maybe more of the background behind changing up their compensation structures?
So that depends on a couple different things. That, yes, you always have to keep long-term success in there, but there are different motivational factors, intrinsic, extrinsic motivation, to say, hey, we have an extra $100,000 to play with going into the end of the year, so we're really going to drive specific behaviors that will help to be those kind of carrots and sticks to motivate as the team gets to the end of the year. But usually things like that are short-term results in there. So when it comes to variable compensation, it is kind of that dance back and forth of what can we do to motivate the team and get the behaviors that we want now, while also focusing on the behaviors for long-term success. Because we don't want to, like rocket fuel, burn something out so quickly that there's no longer the extrinsic motivation to drive that type of specific behavior and the results that you're looking for.
What are some of the biggest challenges that you're seeing right now with organizations and their sales teams?
Do we have enough time in our podcast to cover that? So based on the industry, and like I said, every business is different, but how the economy has fluctuated over the course of the last 6 months to probably 2 or 3 years, especially post-COVID, it changes really kind of that go-to-market strategy with many companies. So they are having to adjust on how people are paid, how they are compensated in a variable sense to drive toward that success toward the end of the year. So some companies are exceeding goals. Some are doing, based on their industry, they're doing very well. Some are coming in a little bit under projections unexpectedly because the price of that went up. The logistics to get that product from point A to point B went up. The price of steel here, the price of gas there, all those things come into play. And the long-term success in there is weathering that storm year after year, month after month, and say, hey, we're going to keep our eye on the ball. We're going to be focused on what we looking to do. Even if there's some economic factors that are unfavorable, it's driving those behaviors that you want to see.
And how do we keep continually training our sales team and the rest of our organizations to understand what the sales team is doing? How do we keep those kind of players all rowing in the same direction?
So, two different elements of that: sales training and sales coaching. Training is typically at the beginning when someone starts off, whether that's from like a sales kickoff, whether that comes in when they're initially onboarded, and that training and understanding. Coaching is something that is a two-way communication that is ongoing. So there are things that what was true not be true today. And we need to, as leaders and as salespeople, be able to evolve and be able to understand that those external factors may change a little bit. We've used the expression that what got you here, what won't get you there. And that happens throughout the course of a sales cycle, throughout the course of quarter after quarter, throughout the course of year after year. So having that leader that is willing to roll up their sleeves And I don't mean necessarily the CEO, the sales leader, the VP of sales, the sales director in an organization to say, hey, I'm willing to go out with my sales team, understand, hear what they're hearing in the market, and adjust that, take that back to the team and say, here's what we're learning, here's how we're going to tweak our message a little bit. And of course, back to where we started, communicating that to marketing to say, these factors are changing now.
How can we stay proactive with that? Sometimes I think you don't realize until you're in that phase of the journey, phase of your industry, phase of the economy, phase of the year, whatever it might be. How do we really try and have leaders stay proactive and anticipate some of those changes coming up?
Always be willing to learn and always be humble in the sense that what you know to be true today may not be true tomorrow. And be willing to learn, be on sites that are talking about those projects that you're working on, those customers that you're looking to serve, what are things that are happening in their industry, and be able to transparently communicate that to your team.
Are there any industries that you work with that you find are more successful when it comes to sales and sales training and maybe taking their sales to the next level, and others that maybe are slower to adopt some of the practices?
I haven't seen anything that is specific to an industry where one is better at something than the other. It really depends on that cascading from the leader from the CEO to the sales leaders, to the salespeople, back to customer experience, back to marketing. But there isn't any one industry that is better than the other.
So Mike, tell me about some of the clients and maybe some of the successes that you have. Obviously without giving away any real secrets, but what has made some of the clients that have worked with Nacre Consulting and worked with you successful in going through their sales journey and sales processes with Nacre? So
we take a industry agnostic approach. There isn't any one particular industry where we say we typically will work with or won't work with. It really depends on the uniqueness of their business and what their situation is. But we've worked with companies from SaaS to manufacturing to healthcare to professional services to nutraceutical and everything in between and several more. The common things that we see in that is that they have a process that needs to be improved. They have a go-to-market strategy and they just need an outsider's perspective to help them go to market and help them sell what they sell. So some of the successes that we've seen over the last several years, we've worked with clients that have been at anywhere from startup up to clients approaching $100 million in annual sales and everything in between. We have a manufacturing client now that has seen over the last few years of working with them 30% year over year growth and still climbing. We have a software company that we took them through and worked with them through their startup stage up to their first $1 million revenue month. But it really depends on the industry, the client, what they need, how they need it, and we're able to really adapt and customize what we offer.
That's awesome. And when I've been on the Nacre Consulting website, it's pretty easy. It's straightforward to understand what you do. I love there's a tab at the top that says start here. So if you're kind of maybe at that point in your journey as a CEO, a business owner, you want to get your company to the next level, and maybe I need some help with my sales, go to the Nacre Consulting website and start here. It's really easy, and there's some really good examples on the website too about the process and some results that clients have achieved. Mike, tell us a little bit more maybe about how someone can reach out to you and connect with you if they're at that point thinking, I need to take my sales to the next level in order to take my company to the next level.
So it really starts with a question. There's typically a pain point that comes up in a business and they recognize, maybe they've been recognizing it for a couple months, maybe they've been recognizing it for a couple of years, and say, hey, we have plateaued. And I'll tell you about the typical ailments that we've seen. Sales have plateaued. Don't know why, but we've kind of tapered off and we can't really understand what is the cause of that. Sometimes sales drop off and market factors, external market factors are causing it, and they haven't really been proactive in reading the tea leaves and seeing that there are some potholes in the road. Sometimes it's a personnel change. Sometimes, and I've had a conversation that, Mike, we just lost 3 salespeople, or Mike, we just lost our VP of sales and we don't have really anyone steering the ship right now. So we just need to be able to get through these next 3 months or 6 months. Sometimes it's hey, we have a new product that we want to take to market and we want to do things a little bit differently. We want to make sure we go about it the right way. So to answer your question specifically, it starts with a conversation. It starts with a conversation with me, with Jason, with Brian, with Spencer to say, how do we best help what you want to achieve? For me personally, I'm very active on LinkedIn. If anybody wants a conversation with me, I'm very easy to find. Mike Belin, Nacre Consulting. Also, nacreconsulting.com. It will start the conversation and at least get you into a conversation with us to say, all right, hey, let's start. I think I know what I want, or I'm not quite sure what I want to achieve. Where do we best go from here?
I think it's a lot for sometimes a business owner to say, okay, I'm at a point, I didn't know I needed to do something different. If I invest in this, am I going to get an ROI? Is it going to take my business to the next level? How can you help a business owner overcome that pain point as well? So one of the things that's challenging to do is from the beginning to guarantee a result. And I find that it's hard. That I've heard those commercials, I've heard those pitches that call us and we guarantee you to do this. And there are a number of factors that come into play. So as I mentioned earlier, that something like our growth assessment is that we have to really get a full understanding of where a business is. It's kind of like a doctor prescribing a medication without ever seeing a patient. If you prescribe the wrong medication as a doctor, you be committing malpractice. You could quite literally kill your patient if you don't have a full understanding of x-rays and blood work. We have to do that same thing. We have to really dig deep and kind of pull the car in, pop the hood, put it on the lift, and say, we need to get a deeper understanding of what's happening to a business, and then we can identify. In many cases, and something that we're able to often do is we offer a 15-minute pipeline evaluation conversation. And usually within 15 minutes, we are able to identify 1 or 2 actionable things that a business can take right away and say, fix this, and this will improve. But I can't put a number to say, fix this, and you'll be a $100 million company tomorrow. It really depends on what they do and how they do it. If you tell me that, I'd be like, Mike, we're signing right up.
I wish it were that easy.
But no, I love the approach you take, though, because I think that is definitely more holistic. It's more authentic, and it really allows you to be true partners to the companies you work with, because you get to understand the business instead of just coming in and being like, here's a magic solution. As going back to what we said earlier, it's really tailored to the unique needs of each individual business. So getting under the hood, like you said, probably doing diagnostics, uncovering what's going on, giving a plan, probably to move forward. And like you said, the couple tips, that this is what you could do to take it to the next level. But then you must have them like, wait, we need more. This is great. Let's see what else we can do. Let's really get a plan moving forward. And then probably truly helps you to partner with the organizations to get them to a better spot than they're in.
You mentioned a couple things in there, that there is no magic solution. There is no one size fits all. We don't come in with a magic wand, wave our magic wand and say, okay, perfect, now everything is fixed. Every business is unique. Every situation is different. While there are common themes, the things that make that business unique really need customized solutions. And we can't just throw in that one size fits all to solve what they need solved.
Yeah, absolutely. I think every single business is truly unique and has their own challenges. And I think one thing that makes businesses successful is being able to constantly grow, constantly evolve, constantly change, diagnose maybe what's going on and how they can improve to better meet the needs of their clients and their customers. And so it's not just gonna be like, we're gonna get to this point and it's gonna be like cruise control. It's constantly working on your company and your team, your salespeople, and getting everyone to the next level as well. And really grow with the business.
And just when you think you have it all figured out, then some external factor happens that we are on cruise control, things are going well, great. Just found out that our salesperson was poached by another company, and they were our top performing person, and here we go again.
Here we go. Let's start over. But I think if you're constantly evolving, working on yourself, you can work through those pain points as they come up too. And also knowing you have partners externally that you can lean on to help get you through those challenges, those pain points, those tough times, so that you can continue to grow your business.
Absolutely.
So, Mike, thank you for being part of the Pain Points podcast today and sharing your story with us and talking through a lot of the sales struggles that organizations might have and how Nacre Consulting can help. I know you shared the website, your LinkedIn, but again, please share the contact information so our listeners can get in touch with you and any key takeaways you have for pain points that Nacre Consulting solves so that our listeners are aware of who you are and what you guys do.
So Mike Belin, Nacre Consulting. I'm very active on LinkedIn. Happy to have a conversation. Also, our website, nacreconsulting.com. As you mentioned earlier, to start here, we kind of take everyone through the journey to say, even if you're not sure exactly what you need to talk about, we can help you navigate through that. But many times, it just takes a quick conversation just to be able to start that and answer a couple questions and identify how we can best help.
Awesome. Well, definitely reach out to Nacre Consulting if you feel like your organization is struggling with some sales pain points and you're ready to go to the next level and grow your business. Like Mike said, you can find him on LinkedIn. I can attest, Mike is very active on LinkedIn. And I will say, great people to connect with, regardless of if you need a salesperson or a sales process improvement in general. But Mike, thanks so much for being on the Pain Points podcast. And we look forward to connecting with you all soon.
Thanks, appreciate it.
Thanks for tuning in to today's episode of the Pain Points podcast. If you enjoyed what you heard, be sure to follow us so you never miss out on future episodes.